Lin Feng never thought that his fate would be modified on a bloody evening. That day, the sun just sank behind the mountain, and the smoke in the village was still rising slowly. He was carrying a bundle of firewood to walk home, thinking about whether he could steal the food from his mother to eat the rice cakes hidden in the cabinet at night. "Feng, come back soon. I've served rabbit meat today." Far away, my mother's voice came from her own courtyard, carrying the warmth of habit. Lin Feng grinned and his pace accelerated a few points. But before he could walk into the yard, a harsh sound of horse hooves suddenly erupted, tearing the tranquility of the mountain village like thunder. "Who? What are you going to be so angry at night?" Lin Feng turned his eyebrows and looked at him, and was stunned. More than a dozen men in black rode high-headed horses and rushed into the village. The long sword in their hands flashed cold light under the sun. After they got off the horse, they didn't say anything, and they slashed when they saw someone. Screaming and crying filled the entire village in an instant. "Run! Run!" Lin Feng felt hot, and threw down the firewood and rushed home. But after taking a few steps, he saw that several men in black had entered his yard. My father was slapped and wanted to resist, but was chopped over with a knife. My mother screamed and wanted to protect him, but she was kicked to the ground. "Mom! Dad!" Lin Feng's eyes were almost glaring, and he lifted a wooden stick on the ground and rushed over. But he, a 16-year-old mountain village boy, was he the opponent of these killers? A man in black sneered and kicked him in the chest. Lin Feng flew out and fell into the mud, his mouth full of blood. "Humph, little shattered, dare you to stab? We are the subordinates of the Blood Shadow Demon Lord. Today, it is your blessing to kill you in this broken village." The man in black snorted coldly, lifted his knife and was about to cut it down. At this moment, a cry of sneered, and my mother rushed over with the last force and hugged the man in black. "Run! Feng, run quickly! Don't worry about us!" Her voice hissed, full of blood. Lin Feng's heart was like a knife, but he knew that keeping it would only lead to life. He gritted his teeth, got up, and ran towards the path behind the village. Behind me, the yells in the village were getting farther and farther away, and the fire was shaking the sky, covering half of the sky. He ran, his eyes falling down, his fists clenched. Blood Shadow Demon Lord, I, Lin Feng, swore that if I didn't claim this revenge, I wouldn't be a human being. He gritted his teeth and roared in low voices, full of hatred in his voice. After running for half a while, Lin Feng finally couldn't help but hide in a secret cellar in the backyard of his ancestral home. This cellar is left by the scattered food, which is usually used to store food, but outsiders cannot find it. Lin Feng curled up in the corner, trembling, and his brain was covered with pictures of his parents lying in a pool of blood. Why is me? Why is my house? He beat the ground, his teeth almost bite and bleeding. Suddenly, he kicked something hard under his feet. When he looked down, he turned out to be a broken stone slab. There seemed to be something hidden under the stone slab. He opened it with all his might, and a yellow book was revealed underneath, with 3 large characters written on the cover Tiangang style. "What is this?" Lin Feng was stunned and turned it open with his hands. He saw that there were dense small characters inside, and there were some human figures with strange postures, as if he was practicing. Although he didn't know many words, he probably thought it wasn't a common thing. "What the hell is, take it first." Lin Feng put the book in and was ready to find a safe hiding before dawn. But as soon as he climbed out of the cellar, he heard a sound of horse hooves coming from a distance, and the man in black shouted, "That kid can't run far away, search. The Blood Shadow Demon Lord has an order, and no one can keep a living." Lin Feng felt nervous and walked into the nearby tree forest, holding his breath and hiding behind a large tree. The men in black searched for a long time but couldn't find anyone, so they finally left carelessly. Lin Feng relaxed his voice, sat down with a tree, took out the book Tiangang style and read it carefully. Although the content in the book was obscure, he reluctantly understood the words on the first page. The atmosphere of Tiangang gathers in the Dantian, and moves around the sky, and can break through the mountains. Lin Feng sat down as he spoke, closed his eyes and tried to practice. Unexpectedly, a heat flow really surging from his stomach and spreading all over his body. Although it was weak, it made him feel much more comfortable. Can you really practice this? Lin Feng was surprised and happy. Although he didn't know what martial arts mean, he knew that this thing was definitely not simple. He immediately made up his mind and practiced this Tiangang style well, and one day he would let the Blood Shadow Demon Lord's blood debt and blood damage. In the next few days, Lin Feng hid in the mountains, relied on wild fruits and streams to fill it, and practiced his skills day and night. Although his progress was as slow as a turtle, every time he finished his exercise, he could feel the heat in his body getting stronger and stronger, and his feet were stronger than before. This day, Lin Feng was sitting by the stream practicing his skills when he suddenly heard a scream coming from a distance, and the sound was very familiar. He was excited, and Lima stood up and touched the sound. Through the tree, he saw several gangs who were like mountains stolen by a girl. The girl was forced under a tree, full of shock, and holding a branch in her hands. Little lady, she is quite handsome. I will accompany the big guys to have fun. I guarantee that I won't hurt you. The mountain monkey in the head was full of dirty faces, and he was approaching. Don't come. When I come back, I'll die for you. The girl's voice was trembling, but her eyes were full of stubbornness. Only then did Lin Feng see clearly that the girl was not someone else, but the childhood sweetheart Ma Xiaolan in the village. He felt warm and Lima rushed out. Stop! You beast, dare to try it! Lin Feng shouted loudly, lifted a thick branch on the ground and slammed it over. What kid is looking for death, right? The head of the mountain sneered and let his hands move. 2 mountain squatters came up, and each person kicked Lin Feng with 1 foot. The force was quite strong. Before he changed, Lin Feng had been kicked down long ago. But this time, he subconsciously realized the words of Tiangang style, and his body was filled with heat, and his feet suddenly burst out with a force that had never been seen before. He hid from his side, took a foot, and then hit a stick on the leg of a mountain boy. The guy knelt directly, screaming in pain. Hey, do you still have some ability? Another Shan Feng was stunned for a moment, pulled out the short knife from his waist and slashed over. Lin Feng panicked, but his foot was faster than his brain. He jumped suddenly to avoid the knife and kicked the other party's chest. The mountain flew directly out, hit the tree, and spit out a mouthful of blood. Brother Feng? It's you! Xiaolan realized Lin Feng at this time and shouted in surprise, his eyes almost falling down. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and stood in front of Xiaolan, staring at the remaining few mountains. Although he had not been practicing for several days, this inexplicable force greatly increased his confidence and his eyes were full of cruelty. I have 2 tricks, but do you think I can fight with us? Shan Fengzi sneered and walked over. The long knife in his hand shook, bringing a cold wind. Lin Feng knew that this guy was not easy to mess with, but he had no way out and could only stick to his head. Come on! I'll fight you today! Lin Feng roared, and the heat flowed and his body rushed wildly. The branches in his hand were used as weapons and smashed hard at the other party. Shan Feng's head boy didn't expect that this kid was so desperate. After a slash, Lin Feng grabbed the opportunity and hit his wrist with a stick. The long knife fell to the ground on the ground. Ah! My hand! Shan Feng's head was in pain and sweated coldly. He stepped back a few times, gritted his teeth and shouted, Brothers, withdraw! This kid is so evil! After a few mountain passes, I saw the boss ate, but he dared not stay for a long time. He helped the injured man run away with smoke. Lin Feng stood there, gasping for breath, and his body was shaking, but there was a feeling of being unable to express in his heart. For the first time, he felt that he was not the slutty boy who could only be beaten. Brother Feng, why did you become so bad? Xiaolan ran over with his eyes shining, full of admiration. Hey, let's talk, find a safe place first. Lin Feng grinned and grinned, but he was thinking that this Tiangang style was indeed not simple, and he could only run away in a few days. If he practiced to the back, wouldn't he be able to step on the Blood Shadow Demon Lord under his feet? The two of them supported each other and walked deeper into the mountain. Lin Feng looked at the secret book in his head with a calm look on his face, and the flames of revenge became stronger and stronger in his heart. On the mountain road far away, an independent old man leaned on a knife and watched this scene far away, with a meaningful smile on his lips. Lin Feng and Xiaolan supported each other and walked towards the deep forest. The sky was getting dark, and the wind in the mountains was filled with dust and blood. They didn't dare to stop. Lin Feng looked at the Tiangang Jue in his head, and a fire ignited in his heart. This secret is his hope for revenge and his only support now. Brother Feng, what should we do next? The village is gone. Xiaolan's voice was low, with a little choking, and his eyes were red. It seemed that he had never passed the murder of that place. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, "First find a safe place to hide. I have to practice this secret book. Blood Shadow Demon Lord helps the beasts. I have long wanted them to lose blood." His words were filled with hatred, and his fists were clenched. Xiaolan was a little bit head, although she was afraid, but looking at Lin Feng's calm eyes, she felt more at ease. The two of them walked for another half a minute and finally found a hidden cave. The entrance was covered by shrubs, and it was still dry inside, just enough to rest. Brother Feng, you just killed those mountains and rivers. Why are you so bad? In the past, you can't even beat the dogs of the old Wang family in the village. Lin Feng smiled and took out the Tiangang style in his heart and filmed the cover. It's all up to this thing. This was dug out from the cellar of our ancestral home. It seems to be a martial arts secret. I practiced it for a few days and found that it really makes people strong. It's just that many times, otherwise I would have been beaten down by that helper. Xiaolan came over and stared at the old book with surprise. Is this the secret of martial arts in the tradition? Brother Feng, can you become a big man in the future? Hey, the big guy dare not say it, but at least he has to step on the dog thing of the Blood Shadow Demon Lord under his feet. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, flipped out the secret book at will, and was ready to continue practicing. But as soon as he sat down with his legs, he heard a low smile coming from outside the hole, as if it was coming out of his throat, which made people's skin numb. Who? Lin Feng stood up suddenly, guarded Xiaolan, staring at the entrance of the cave with vigilance. Boy, I'm not a little boy. After learning a little bit of fur, I dare to speak wildly, saying that I want to step on the Blood Shadow Demon Lord. A sound of a sandy man came from outside the cave. Later, a single-armed old man walked in slowly. He was wearing a ragged gray robe, holding a long sword with a glazed hair in his left hand, full of frost on his face, and his eyes were as bright as he could see through people. Lin Feng felt nervous, subconsciously clasped the branches in his hand, and shouted, "Who are you? What are you talking about to us?" The old man glanced at him, grinned, revealing a few yellow teeth. "Follow me? I'm just passing by. It's a bit interesting to see you, a kid. I just hit the mountain for a few times, although it was rough, but it was quite powerful, and it looked like a martial arts material." Lin Feng heard this. Although he was still on guard, he also felt relieved. It seemed that this old man didn't look like a bad person. He tried to ask, "Old man, what do you mean? What do you want to fuck?" "My surname is Dao, and I am called an old swordsman. I have lived in this mountain for many years. You are such a boy who holds Tiangang style in his hand, but you don't even understand the most basic air method. If you practice blindly, you will be obsessed with the devil and die." The old swordsman snorted coldly, with a little disdain in his language. Lin Feng was stunned, looked down at the secret book, and felt a little nervous. Why did you get into a devil? I've been practicing for a few days. Aren't it okay? What a bad. The old swordsman glared at him and walked closer with his sword. Tiangang Jue is an ancient novel book, which is extremely fierce. No one can point it out. You are really in a state of chaos and you have already killed yourself. You can still deal with the mountain robbery. When you meet the Blood Shadow Demon Lord, you will be pinched to death in minutes. Lin Feng was said to have a red face, but he wrote a few points in his heart. After all, he had been practicing for several days, and he felt that the heat in his body was constantly shaking, and his chest occasionally hurt. He gritted his teeth and clasped his fists and said, "Old man, how can you teach me how to practice? I want to be strong and take revenge." The old swordsman narrowed his eyes, looked at him for a while, and said, "Avenge? Okay, you have ambition. I see that you are not bad in nature and have a cruelty, but you can become a weapon. That's it. If you are my teacher, I will teach you how to practice Tiangang skills and also tell your sword skills. How about it?" Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he immediately knelt down with a sound, knocking 3 heads. "My teacher is here, and Lin Feng is willing to learn. I will definitely give you a good answer in the future." Xiaolan looked around with admiration and knelt down. "Old man, can I learn something with you?" The old swordsman smiled and slammed his hand. "Little girl, you are pure and kind-hearted, and it is not suitable for practicing martial arts. But I can teach you how to defend yourself. Let's get up, we will practice hard in this mountain from now on." In the following days, Lin Feng and the old swordsman practiced their skills day and night. The old swordsman first taught him how to consolidate the first foundation of Tiangang style, and taught him the air gate so that the true atmosphere in his body will no longer be chaotic. Lin Feng is very talented and has learned very quickly. After several days, he can feel the energy flowing like a stream in his body, and his strength is several times greater than before. In addition to practicing, the old swordsman also taught Lin Feng swordsmanship. Although he was a solo player, he was quick and ruthless in his swordsmanship, and every move was directly aimed at the key point, killing people with awesomeness. Lin Feng held a sharpened wooden stick as a knife. Although he was clumsy, he slowly found a point. "Boy, remember, no matter how high your martial arts are, you must have a sense of morality. Otherwise, what's the difference between it and the beast like the Blood Shadow Demon Lord?" Every time the old swordsman finishes practicing, he will be like this and has a strong lingering style. Lin Feng was silently remembered in his heart. He knew that the teacher was teaching him the principles of being a human being, not just for the sake of becoming stronger. This day, Lin Feng was practicing with the old swordsman in the mountains, when suddenly Xiaolan ran over panting, full of shock. "Brother Feng, teacher, it's not good. Several villagers in the village at the foot of the mountain have been arrested. They heard that it was done by the Blood Shadow Demon Lord, and they said they were going to use it to sacrifice some evil skills." Lin Feng heard it, his eyes were red, and his fists were clenched tightly. "Beast! Come and harm others again. Master, let's save people." The old knife guest furrowed his brows and said in a deep voice, "The subordinates of the Blood Shadow Demon Lord are not comparable to that group of small mountain bandits. Although you progress quickly, facing them, I'm afraid it's more likely to be bad than good. But I can't just watch the villagers die. They might be my parents' neighbors." Lin Feng gritted his teeth, his eyes firm. The old knife guest stared at him for a while, finally nodding. "Good, you have backbone. This old man will accompany you on this trip, but you must listen to me and not act recklessly." The 3 of them immediately packed up and hurried down the mountain. Upon reaching near the village, they indeed saw several black-clothed people escorting 5 or 6 villagers, heading deep into the mountain valley. Those villagers were tied up, with faces full of despair, and among them, one old man Lin Feng recognized was exactly the village's Zhang Dai. "Feng bro, what to do?" Xiaolan asked in a low voice, her voice trembling. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "Master, you say what to do." The old knife guest sneered once, lowering his voice, "They are not many, first hide in ambush. Wait for them to enter the mountain valley, where the terrain is narrow, then we make our move. You and Xiaolan flank from the left, this old man will strike from the right, remember, quick battle and decisive victory." Lin Feng nodded, leading Xiaolan quietly around to the left side, hiding behind the bushes. When that group of black-clothed people reached the mouth of the mountain valley, he suddenly rushed out, his wooden stick carrying a whistling sound, directly smashing toward the back of a black-clothed person's head. Ah! That black-clothed person fell to the ground with a sound, without even a chance to react. The other several black-clothed people were stunned and immediately drew their knives, roaring, "Who? Seeking death." Lin Feng didn't waste words, his internal true chi circulated, the wooden stick danced with great vigor, forcefully repelling two black-clothed people. Xiaolan was also helping from the side, although she didn't know martial arts, but throwing stones was quite accurate, smashing one black-clothed person full of bumps on the head. "Humph, little bastards, daring to ruin our blood shadow sect's good deeds." A tall and sturdy black-clothed person walked out, with a face full of fierce flesh, holding a large ring knife in his hand, the blade still carrying bloodstains, obviously not a pushover. He chopped with one knife, the force so great it stirred up a gust of wind. Lin Feng hurriedly dodged to the side, but was shaken until his arm went numb, the wooden stick almost slipping from his hand. "Feng bro, be careful!" Xiaolan shouted anxiously. Lin Feng clenched his teeth tightly, knowing he was not a match for this guy, but he had no way out and could only hold on, activating the heavenly gang art, his internal true chi surging wildly, trying to counterattack. But that black-clothed person's knife techniques were fierce. After several moves, Lin Feng already had several blood marks on his body, in a sorry state. "Humph, with just this level of skill, you dare to come seeking death? Let me tell you, this old man is the Iron Knife Protector of the Blood Shadow sect, killing you is as simple as stepping on an ant." That black-clothed person sneered, the knife edge pointing straight at Lin Feng's neck, looking as if he was about to finish him with one knife. At that moment, a cold light flashed, the old knife guest's figure appeared like a ghost, his rusty knife swung, directly blocking the Iron Knife Protector's large ring knife, emitting a piercing collision sound. "Old thing, where did you come from?" The Iron Knife Protector was stunned and roared angrily. "This old man is the old knife guest, specialized in killing you bunch of blood shadow sex dog things." The old knife guest snorted coldly, although he only had one hand, his knife strikes were astonishingly fast, the knife light like a rainbow, forcing the Iron Knife Protector to retreat several steps. Lin Feng took the opportunity to retreat to the side, gasping for breath, his body burning with pain, but his eyes were even more determined. He knew that he was still too weak, not even able to beat this protector-level guy, how to talk about revenge? "Boy, don't daze. This old man will hold him off, you quickly circulate your chi and break through the last barrier of the first level of the heavenly gang art. Only after breaking through will you be qualified to fight with these." The old swordsman pointed his head and saw a flash of relief in his eyes. "It's good, it breaks through very quickly. I'll hand it over to you the rest of the little guy." Lin Feng responded and turned around and looked at the remaining men in black, his eyes as cold as a knife. He held a short knife and his body flashed like a tiger going down the mountain. The men in black were not opponents at all. After a few moves, they were all chopped to the ground, and they were wailed and wailed. "Let's go! Take the villagers back to the mountain." The old swordsman ordered in a deep voice. Lin Feng and Xiaolan Zhao untied the villagers' skulls and helped them to retreat to the mountain. Although the villagers were still shocked, they looked at Lin Feng's eyes full of gratitude. But just as they walked out of the valley, a low smile suddenly came from a distance, as if they were climbing out of the ground, making people feel cold and anxious. Lin Feng felt nervous and thought that the guy behind this laughter was definitely not comparable to the Iron Knife Protection method. Lin Feng's heart was tightened, and the low smile seemed to pierce the thorn into his ears, and his hair was growing. He stopped, turned his head and looked in the direction of the sound, only seeing a dark shadow walking out of the deep valley. The man was wearing a dark red robe, covered with half an iron mask, half of his face covered with scars, and his eyes were as cold as a poisonous snake. "Who?" Lin Feng gritted his teeth, held the short knife in his hand, and protected him in front of Xiaolan and the villagers. Even though he had a little confidence in his heart, he still felt inexplicably stressed when facing this guy. The little shattered, "I killed my blood shadow door's Iron Knife Protection method." The slightest sneer. The black shadow sneered, his voice as sand as a whetstone scraping the iron skin, and his teeth were sour. He approached step by step, and a heavy smell of blood came out of his body. As he walked, the grass on the ground seemed to be pressed by something. The old swordsman's eyes froze and he said in a deep voice, are you a red-faced ghost in Blood Shadow Gate? One of the 4 major protection methods under Blood Shadow Demon Lord? Bold, I still have some eyesight. That's right, I'm a red-faced ghost. Today, I'm on the order of the Demon Lord to come and settle this piece of fish that are leaking. I didn't expect that I could still touch you who are not afraid of death. The red-faced ghost grinned, revealing a black-yellow teeth, trembling in his hand, and took out a strange knife that was as skeleton as a snake. The blade was full of strange runes, and the red light was hidden. Lin Feng heard the 4 words Blood Shadow Demon Lord, and his eyes instantly turned red, and his brain was full of pictures of his parents lying in a pool of blood. He gritted his teeth and growled, "It's you who helps the beast again. I'll fight you today." Boy Feng, it's a bit cold. This guy is not the kind of iron knife protection method. He has deep internal strength and vicious swordsmanship. You just broke through the first level, and fighting hard is not a match. The old swordsman said softly and hurriedly reminded him, while holding the knife in his hand tightly and preparing to move at any time. But Lin Feng could not hear it, and hatred burned his brain like fire. He shouted loudly, "No matter what kind of protection he is, killing the whole village, I will take you to the knife first." He said, his body was really rushing wildly, kicking his foot down, and the whole person rushed towards the red-faced ghost like an arrow, pointing the short knife straight to the other party's throat. Looking for death? The red-faced ghost snorted coldly, and the strange knife swung, bringing a red light, easily slapping Lin Feng's attack. The blade collided and a harsh sound of golden iron came out. Lin Feng felt his arm numb, and his whole person was shocked to retreat for a few steps, and the tiger's mouth was cracked, and blood flowed out. "With this ability, how dare you come and pick me?" The red-faced ghost sneered disdainfully. The strange sword flashed for a few times, and the sword came to Lin Feng like a poisonous snake. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and snatched his teeth and reluctantly avoided a few moves, but he was still bleeding from his body, which hurt so much. "Brother Feng." Xiaolan looked anxious from behind, and couldn't help but lift a piece of stone and threw it over. However, the stone had not yet touched the red-faced ghost, and was shattered by an invisible air, and even the waves did not rise up. "Humph, is the little girl coming to die?" The red-faced ghost glanced at Xiaolan, with a flash of murderous desire in his eyes. He raised his hand and swung it, and a red knife rushed Xiaolan away. "Stop!" Lin Feng saw the silence, his eyes almost glared. He swung over the ground, and used his body to force the sword. The knife hit his back hard, tearing a deep bone-like wound, and the blood instantly dyed his clothes. He fell to the ground, and he was so painful that he was so angry. "Brother Feng!" Xiaolan rushed over, and the water fell down unstoppable, and Xiao shook and wanted to help him up. Don't worry about me, take the villagers, run away." Lin Feng gritted his teeth and pushed Xiaolan hard, staring at the red-faced ghost with unyielding hatred. "Run? Don't even think about leaving today." The red-faced ghost smiled, the strange knife shook, and prepared to refill it again, and finally Lin Feng was in the end. At this moment, the old swordsman's figure flashed to the side of the red-faced ghost like a ghost. The sword brought a cold light and rushed towards the other party's neck. "My apprentice, you can't move." "Old guy, I'm looking for death." The red-faced ghost reacted very quickly. With a strange knife, 2 people collided with each other, sparking 4 times. Although the old swordsman is old, his swordsmanship is so powerful that he directly points to the key points. However, the red-faced ghost has too strong internal strength, and each sword is full of pressure. After a few moves, the old swordsman also finds a little struggling and restless. "Master." Lin Feng looked at the old swordsman's hard fighting, his heart was like a knife. However, because he was too severely injured, he even stood up and was free. He bit his teeth and ran Tiangang style. His body was really crazy and he tried to get hurt. However, with every move, the wound would tear it even harder and the blood would flow faster. "Xiaolan, take the villagers first." "Hurry!" the old swordsman yelled, his voice full of anxiety. Xiaolan's eyes were bright and knew that he would only drag his back legs if he stayed. She gritted her teeth, supported several villagers, and said in a low voice, "Brother Feng, teacher, you must hold on. I'll hide first and come back to find you soon." After saying that, she insisted on not letting go and ran towards the deep forest with the villagers. Lin Feng looked at Xiaolan's back and a burst of hope ignited in his heart, but he was immediately crushed by the real absolute hope. He knew that with his current state and his master, he was not a match for the red-faced ghost at all. This guy is so strong that he is suffocating. "Old man, your swordsmanship is good. Unfortunately, you are old and your energy is not bad, right?" The red-faced ghost smiled and suddenly increased the force. He slashed with one knife. The old swordsman was so shocked that he took a few steps back. He stumbled down his foot and almost fell down. "Master." Lin Feng was anxious and suddenly a thought flashed in his brain. "No, I can't wait to die like this." He bit his tongue, stimulated himself with the pain, climbed up vigorously, lifted up the short knife on the ground, and roared, "Beast, I'm fighting with you." The body was so powerful that he could even sting his body. But regardless of whether he was concerned, he forced himself to penetrate the red-faced ghost body. The short sword brought all his strength and stabbed the other party hard in the back of the heart. "Humph, the twitch." The red-faced ghost sneered, and he didn't even turn his head back. He slapped out with a backhand, and the sword hit Lin Feng's chest directly. His whole person was beaten and hit the stone hard. A mouthful of blood was sprayed out of his mouth, and his mind began to blur. "Boy!" The old swordsman saw Lin Feng's serious injury and roared. The sword technique suddenly became even more fierce, as if he was desperate. Every move was carrying a desperate attack, forcing the red-faced ghost to take a step back. "Old thing, have you been crazy?" The red-faced ghost eyebrows obviously didn't expect that the old swordsman would have such a ruthless sarcasm. But he had a strong internal strength and quickly calmed down his feet. The strange knife turned around and slapped hard on the shoulder of the old swordsman. The blood spurted out. The old swordsman hummed, knelt on his knees, and reluctantly used the knife to hold his body. You can be very good at slapping, but unfortunately, you must die here today." The red-faced ghost licked the blood on the blade, with a bloodthirsty light flashing in his eyes, slowly lifting the strange knife, ready to give the old swordsman a fatal blow. Lin Feng was lying on the ground, his eyes were blurred, his ears were full of buzzing, his brain suddenly flashed his parents' faces, and the screams of people from the village. He gritted his teeth and a fire ignited in his heart. "No! I can't die. I haven't revenge yet, I can't just fall down." At this moment, a rapid shout suddenly came from afar, "Brother Feng! Master! Stop!" It was Xiaolan's voice. Lin Feng turned his head and saw Xiaolan running towards this side with several figures. Although the figures could not see their faces clearly, they were strong and had weapons in their hands. They were obviously not ordinary villagers. "Humph, are you here to die again?" The red-faced ghost sneered, and he was not in a hurry to move. He obviously wanted to see what this helper was. After Xiaolan ran closer, several figures also revealed their true faces. The leader is a burly middle-aged man with a burly face and a beard, holding a big hammer in his hand, with extraordinary aura. Behind him, two young men, one man and one woman, holding long swords and sharp eyes. The red-faced ghost, the lackey of the blood-shadowed door, bullying a young man and an old man. What is the ability? The bearded man shouted loudly, and the sound was like thunder, which shocked the valley. "Humph, the Zhao iron handled by bluestone? Why, do you want to fold this water with this slot?" The red-faced ghost narrowed his eyes and clearly recognized the other party. There was a bit of jealousy in his language. "Stop talking. The blood shadow gate is slamming in this area, which has long been unstoppable. I have to take care of it if I meet you today." Zhao Iron snorted coldly, slammed the iron hammer, and directly rushed up, with a shocking force. Every blow was filled with a broken sound, and several pits were smashed on the ground. The red-faced ghost monster sword flickered, and he reluctantly took a few moves, but his face was so obvious that it was hard to see. The two young swordsmen also joined the war team. The magic power and combined with the fierce attack of Zhao Iron, the red-faced ghost suddenly fell. Xiaolan, what's going on? Xiaolan's eyes were not drying yet, and he hurriedly said, I just took the villagers into the forest and happened to meet the helper of Zhao who was helping Bluestone. They heard that the blood shadow was here and came to check it out. I begged them to save you, but they followed him without saying anything. Lin Feng felt warm in his heart, and he didn't expect that Xiaolan would find a helping hand at the moment. He gritted his teeth, climbed up violently, and said in a low voice, I have to help you, I can't let them save us in vain. Brother Feng, you are too hurt, don't move first. Xiaolan was so anxious that he stomped his feet, but Lin Feng could not hear it. He picked up the short knife, drove the only remaining real atmosphere in Tiangang style, and rushed towards the war team. Beast, take your life. Lin Feng growled and flashed the sword. Although the force was not strong, the angle was scattered and stabbed the red-faced ghost's waist, forcing the other party to distract himself. Humph, little shattered, your life is quite strong. The red-faced ghost shouted angrily, and the monster knife swept back, but was hit hard by the Zhao Iron hammer, and a loud noise made it sound, and his arms were numb. Red-faced ghost, you can't escape today. Zhao Zizhu shouted loudly, and the iron hammer smashed, and cooperated with the two swordsmen and Lin Feng's control. He forced the red-faced ghost festival to retreat. The old swordsman also stood up at this time. Although he was not very injured, his eyes were filled with anger. He snatched the sword and joined the battle again. I haven't fallen yet, so how can I get you to go wild? The 5 people joined forces and finally forced the red-faced ghost to the side of the mountain wall. Although the opponent had a deep internal force, the 2 fists could not fight against 4 hands. The body was hit, and the blood flowed out, and the air became weaker. Humph, you're leaving today. When I go back and sue the Demon Lord, don't even want to live. The red-faced ghost gritted his teeth and forced the people away with a sudden knife. His body flashed and turned into a black shadow, fleeing into the deep valley, and he couldn't see the shadow in the blink of an eye. Run quickly. Zhao Iron snorted coldly and didn't catch up. As soon as the other party had a deep internal strength. If they really had to work hard, they had to pay the price here. Lin Feng saw the red-faced ghost running away, and his tight nerve finally relaxed. His legs softened and he fell to the ground, gasping for breath. His body was covered in blood, and his wounds were so painful. Brother Feng. Xiaolan ran over tightly, held him, and his eyes fell down again. Boy, my life is very strong. I can still stand up after being hit by so many swords from the red-faced ghost. Zhao Iron Crossbow walked over and patted Lin Feng on the shoulder, with a little more appreciation in his eyes. The old swordsman covered his shoulders with injuries, and Shai Yi said in a voice, Tao, thank you for help, otherwise I and this guy would have to explain this today. What a gust. Blood Shadow Men should have been aware of this beast. I heard that they have slaughtered several villages in this area. Although our bluestone helps us, we can't stand this kind of thing to help dogs. Zhao Iron rushed to his hands, full of facial expressions. Lin Feng panted and held his fists hard and said, Thank you, thank you. I, Lin Feng, have recorded this kindness and will be a reply in the future. Ah, good boy, ambitious. But you are not so worried. Let's go back to Qingshi with us to help you with the wounds, and then discuss how to deal with the helper of the Blood Shadow Men. Zhao Zizhu smiled heartily and signaled his subordinates to help Fu Lin Feng and the old swordsman. The forest was at a slightest point, and a fire ignited in my heart. That battle just now, although he was a little bit scared, he also saw the gap clearly. The red-faced ghost is just a subordinate of the Blood Shadow Demon Lord, so he is already so powerful. How terrifying is the Demon Lord's own strength? But he did not retreat, but instead made up his mind. He lowered his head and looked at the short knife in his hand, his eyes as cold as ice. Blood Shadow Demon Lord, and you, as you help the beast, one day, I will step you under my feet. At this moment, Zhao Iron suddenly squeaked a low voice and said, Brother Lin, there is something I have to remind you. Just before the red-faced ghost escaped, he mentioned that he wanted to go back to sue the Demon Lord. I doubt that the Blood Shadow Gate slaughtered the village this time is not just to sacrifice the evil skills, but there may be a larger picture behind it. Lin Feng was stunned and asked with great urgency, "What does it mean? Can you have any more pictures?" Zhao Jing bowed and said in a deep voice, "I heard the news from the world that the Blood Shadow Demon Lord has been very close to some righteous forces recently, and it seems to be working on some big moves in secret. Your village was slaughtered, and it may be related to this matter. I don't know what it is, but you have to be careful. The way to revenge is not that simple." Lin Feng was shocked and his brain was in a mess. The power of righteousness and the Blood Shadow Demon King hook up? Why is this so evil when you hear it? But Zhao Iron is not like joking. The more vague he said, the more uneasy Lin Feng felt. "Let's go back to the help, and let's talk about it. Let's check the matter of Blood Shadow Gate slowly." Zhao Iron patted Lin Feng's shoulder and walked towards the direction of the bluestone helping. Lin Feng was supported by Xiaolan, and his steps were difficult, but his brain was full of iron huddles. Lin Feng leaned against the wooden bed supported by bluestone, his body was covered with belts, and his wounds were still hurting, but his eyes were more stable than at any time. Over the past few days, Zhao Iron not only provided him with shelter, but also sent people to inquire about the tranquility of the Blood Shadow, which gave Lin Feng more confidence in the road to revenge. But he knew in his heart that it was not enough to rely on others to help him. He had to become stronger in order to kill the beast, the Blood Shadow Demon Lord. "Brother Feng, take some medicine. Zhao said that this is the best medicine for the injury in it, and it will be good for your recovery." Xiaolan walked in with a bowl of black soup medicine, looking at Lin Feng with his face intimately, with heartache in his eyes. Lin Feng grinned and took the medicine bowl and slapped it. Although he was so bitter that his eyebrows were straight, his heart was warm. "Xiaolan, I'll take care of me for more than a few days. When I get hurt, let's go find the Blood Shadow Demon Lord to calculate the money." Xiaolan points the head, and said a little worriedly, "Brother Feng, Zhao helps the helper said that the Blood Shadow Men has been doing a lot recently, as if they are preparing some major plans, and some righteous sects have been pulled in. You have to be careful and not to move." "The Righteous Door sect? Humph, what the Righteous Door, maybe it's a virtue with the Blood Shadow Demon Lord." Lin Feng snorted coldly, his brain full of the vague news mentioned before by Zhao Iron. He clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "No matter who is in contact with that beast, I will find out the truth. Whoever takes the way, I will kill who." At this moment, a rapid sound of footsteps came from outside the door, and the iron was pushed into the door, with a blue face. It was obvious that something big happened. "Brother Lin, I just received the news that the Blood Shadow Demon Lord has come out of the mountain. He heard that he was summoning his subordinates to hold a blood sacrifice ceremony in Haifengling. It is probably to harm people's lives and practice evil skills." Lin Feng heard it, his eyes suddenly turned red, and he suddenly sat up from the bed, his wound hurting, but he gritted his teeth and endured it, and asked in a deep voice, "Where's Black Wind? I'll meet him now. Don't be anxious. The Black Wind is in danger." The 4 major protection methods under the Blood Shadow Demon Lord are all there, and there are many evil sect masters. "If you go now, you will die." Zhao Iron Pressure said with a low voice, "However, we can't help you. I plan to join several sects of righteous paths and go to the sect to find the truth together. How about you keep up with me if you get hurt?" Although Lin Feng was anxious, he knew that he was so hard that he had no good results. He gritted his teeth and pointed, "Okay, help the Lord, I'll hear you, but you have to answer me. If you find the whereabouts of the Blood Shadow Demon Lord, you must tell me the first one. Don't worry, this revenge is not only yours, but our Qingshi help also has an old reputation with him." Zhao Ji patted Lin Feng's shoulder and turned out to arrange the manpower. In the following days, Lin Feng practiced Tiangang style day and night. Although the old swordsman was injured, he still pointed out how he could break through higher levels. Lin Feng is very talented, and with the idea of revenge, he has made rapid progress. He has broken through the 2nd level in no time. His body is really as strong as a river, and his strength is so great that he can smash a huge rock with one punch. Boy, remember, no matter how high your martial arts are, your mind cannot be irritated. The guy from Blood Shadow Demon Lord has an incorrect heart and is practicing evil skills. Although it is harmful, it is also a lot of damage. When you fight him, don't be overwhelmed by his aura. The old swordsman leaned on the knife and slapped his words with a long center of gravity. Lin Feng was silently remembered in his heart. He knew that this battle was not only for revenge, but also for not letting more people be killed by the Blood Shadow. Half a month later, Zhao Iron brought back the confirmation news. The Blood Shadow Demon Lord indeed sacrificed under the Black Wind, and was preparing to use the blood sacrifice of hundreds of people to achieve a certain kind of evil skill and enhance his own strength. What was even more shocking was that there was a great sect of righteousness, the Tiangang sect, who secretly tied up with the Blood Shadow Gate, sent someone to help protect the sacrificial forum, and replaced the Blood Shadow Demon Lord to share the secret techniques of evil skills. Tiangang sect? Are they not the pillars of the righteous path? How can they fuck such a beast that is worse than that? After hearing this, Lin Feng was so angry that he punched the table. The wooden table cracked directly, and the wood chips flew. Zhao Zizhu sneered and said with a sneer, "How can there be any real good and evil in the world?" Many sects shouted righteousness, but their backs were even more dirty than those of the evil sect. This time, we not only smashed the Blood Shadow Demon King's sacrificial fortress, but also had to reveal the true face of the Tiangang sect so that the whole martial arts world can see their mouths and faces. Lin Feng bit his teeth tightly, his eyes as cold as a knife. "Okay, help me, when should we do it?" "In 3 days, several small sects will get along with us and kill the Black Wind together." Zhao Iron said in a deep voice and patted Lin Feng on the shoulder. "Brother Lin, this battle is very fierce, you have to be prepared." 3 days passed in a flash. Lin Feng's injury has recovered most of the time, and his body's true atmosphere is unprecedentedly abundant. He held a long steel knife from a shark, standing in front of the bluestone helping the crowd, his eyes firmly as iron. The Black Wind is covered with dark night, the night is like ink, and the mountains are filled with winds. Blood-red fires are lit around the sacrificial forum, reflecting a scene of shady. Many masters from the Blood Shadow Gate were guarding the surroundings, and in the center of the sacrificial fortress, a tall figure wearing a black-red robe sat on his knees, and his body was filled with a strong bloody atmosphere. It was the Blood Shadow Demon Lord himself. Lin Feng and his group hid on the side of the mountain, watching the sacrificial silence. Zhao Iron Guard said in a low voice, "Did you see it? The one who helped the Tiangang sect wears white robe, and it was indeed a link with the Blood Shadow Gate. Let's first solve the external guards, and then directly push the sacrificial fortress to cut off their blood sacrifice." "I understand." Lin Feng was fucked and held the long knife tightly. The true atmosphere in his body had begun to move and was ready to explode at any time. With the order from Zhao Iron, Bluestone and several masters from the small sect killed each other, and the sword-light and sword-like shadows instantly tear the night. Although the guard of the Blood Shadow Man was fierce, he was caught off guard and soon died. Lin Feng was ahead, and his long sword danced like a wind. Each sword was filled with the fierce atmosphere of Tiangang Jue. Several disciples from the Blood Shadow Gate were not opponents at all, and were chopped over in the blink of an eye. "Kill! Don't let them complete the blood sacrifice." Zhao Iron roared and directly pushed the sacrifice with people. When the people of Tiangang sect saw this, they pulled out their long sword to fight. They also shouted, "Eliminate the demons and ways" on their mouths. Only one's eyes were cold, and they were not as good as those of righteous people. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and rushed into the crowd, and took action by those who chose Tiangang sect. He knew in his heart that these evil gentlemen were more hateful than the Blood Shadow Men. He said it was easy to hear, but behind his back he helped the village to kill people. A disciple of Tiangang sect stabbed in. Lin Feng hid from his side, and took a long sword to the other party's throat, and the blood was sprayed. The guy fell down before he could even make a sound. "Boy, looking for death." Suddenly, a roar erection rose, and the red-faced ghost killed him from the crowd, holding a strange knife, and the knife was like a poisonous snake. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold and he didn't say anything. He directly played the second level of Tiangang Jue. The long sword hit the monster's sword head-on, sparking 4 times, forcing the red-faced ghost to take a step back. "Mph, I let you run away last time, I will kill you this time." Lin Feng growled. His sword technique was like a storm, leaving no room for moves. Although the red-faced ghost had deep internal strength, Lin Feng made too fast progress. After a few moves, he was so stressed that he was a little breathless. "Red-faced ghost, a waste, don't retreat quickly." At this moment, a low voice came from the direction of the sacrificial palace, carrying an incomparable power, which shocked everyone present. Lin Feng looked up and saw that the Blood Shadow Demon Lord stood up, with a double-eyed agaric, and a breath that was so irreversible that it could not be dissolved. "Demon Lord." The red-faced ghost hurriedly retreated aside, lowering his head and not daring to say a word. Lin Feng's heart tightened, and his hand holding the knife trembled slightly, but he did not retreat. He stared at the Blood Shadow Demon Lord, gritted his teeth and said, "Beast. Slaughter my entire village and kill my parents. Today I want you to lose blood and lose blood." "Ha, little mess, my treacherous body is not small. Even if you are afraid of you, you dare to challenge me?" The Blood Shadow Demon Lord sneered, and with a blow, an invisible air came as a pressure like a landslide. Lin Feng was busy with his air, but he was still shocked and took a few steps back. His chest was filled with anxiety. "Brother Feng, don't fight hard. He has achieved great evil skills. Let's go together." Zhao Iron Guard saw this, shouted loudly, and knocked over the iron hammer. Several experts from the small sect also joined in, and the light sword shadow attacked the Blood Shadow Demon Lord. But the Blood Shadow Demon Lord just snorted coldly, and his hands shook, and the blood on his body swelled violently, forming a red protective cover. All attacks hit it, and even the waves did not rise. He raised his hand and snatched several experts from the small sect were shocked and vomited blood and fell to the ground. He even lost the energy to get up. "With this ability, can you dare to harm me?" The Blood Shadow Demon Lord smiled and looked at Lin Feng. "Boy, I remember you. When I first slaughtered your broken village, it was because I heard that your family had Tiangang Jue hidden. I have been looking for me for so many years, but I didn't expect that I would really be given to you. I handed over it, or maybe I could keep you all." When Lin Feng heard this, his eyes instantly glared, and his brain seemed to explode. It turns out that the hatred of the gate is actually because of this secret book. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Beast! For the sake of secrets, do you still have your face to keep me? Even if I die today, I will still pull you on my back." Speaking of which, he suddenly started Tiangang style, and his body was in a turbulent manner, and he even broke through the 3rd level of the connection without even considering the pain of the torn cleft. In an instant, his body stormed violently, and there was a golden light flashing around him. With a long sword, he brought a thunderous sound, which directly grabbed the throat of the Blood Shadow Demon Lord. "Oh? Breakthrough? It's a bit meaningful." The Blood Shadow Demon Lord narrowed his eyes, and the wire was not panicked. He slapped it out with his palm, and the blood hit Lin Feng's sword light like a huge wave. The two forces collided, and a huge sound came out of cracks on the ground. Although Lin Feng broke through, the gap with the Blood Shadow Demon Lord was still obvious. He was shocked to retreat several times, bleeding from the corners of his mouth, and he gritted his teeth and refused to fall down. "Brother Feng!" Xiaolan was anxious from behind and couldn't help but rush over, holding a short sword in his hand. Although he knew that he couldn't help, he still wanted to part with it. "Don't come!" Lin Feng roared, but the Blood Shadow Demon Lord sneered and raised his hand and pointed it, and a stream of blood rushed towards Xiaolan. Xiaolan screamed, and the short sword snatched his hands. A blood mark appeared on his body and fell to the ground. "Beast!" Lin Feng's eyes were red, and hatred and anger made his brain blank. He yelled, "I'm fighting with you." The true atmosphere inside his body was forced to the limit, and he even burned his essence and blood to improve his strength. With a long sword, he brought a golden sword light and rushed towards the Blood Shadow Demon Lord. This sword condensed all his hatred and strength. Wherever the sword light passed, the ground was torn a deep slash, and the air seemed to be split. The Blood Shadow Demon Lord finally changed his face, and the blood cover was slashed open, and a blood mark on his body also added to his body, and blood dripped down, making him look a little wolf-like. "Boy, you actually hurt me!" The Blood Shadow Demon Lord roared, his face full of tears, his blood storm, and he was ready to fight back. But at this moment, Zhao and the old swordsman rushed on at the same time, and the hammer and the swordsman were rushing out, dragging his attack. "Boy Feng, hurry up, break the sacrificial abbey." His power comes from the blood sacrificial abbreviation. As long as the sacrificial abbreviation is destroyed, he will be defeated. The old swordsman yelled, with a sound of sand, carrying an unquestionable determination. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and knew that this was the only opportunity. He snatched his wounds, and his body flashed, and he rushed towards the fortress. He raised his hand and fell, and the long knife slashed hard on the bloodstone in the center of the fortress. With a huge sound, the bloodstone shattered, and the bloodlight around the sacrificial fortification instantly dissipated. The Blood Shadow Demon King's body also became obviously weak, and his face was as white as paper. "Ah! My blood sacrifice!" The Blood Shadow Demon Lord roared angrily, unwilling to accept his eyes, but his aura was weak, and he could no longer resist Lin Feng and others' joint attack. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, and the long swords were connected. Each sword was filled with revenge and finally pierced the Blood Shadow Demon King's chest with a knife, and blood spurted out. "Boy, I'm not willing." The Blood Shadow Demon Lord stared at him, his voice weakened, and finally fell to the ground and died in anger. Lin Feng stood there, gasping for breath, blood was covered in body, and a long knife was pressing against the ground, barely falling down. He looked at the Blood Shadow Demon King's body, his brain flashed his parents' faces, and the screams of the villagers, and his eyes finally fell down. "Dad, Mom, I've taken revenge. I've finally taken revenge." He murmured in a low voice, choked with a sob, and carried a silk torn apart. At the end of the battle, Zhao Zhizhu and the old swordsman left, patted Lin Feng's shoulder, and were filled with relief. "Boy, you're pretty." Once the Blood Shadow Demon Lord dies, the Blood Shadow Gate has no heads. Let's take the Tianyan sex hook to the public, and the martial arts world will finally be quiet. Lin Feng was fucked, wiped the blood and rinse from his face, helped Xiaolan up, and said in a low voice, "Xiaolan, let's go home. This grudge in the world has nothing to do with us." Xiaolan's eyes were bright and she smiled and pointed, "Okay, Brother Feng, let's go back to the village and go through a peaceful life." A few days later, the news of the Blood Shadow Demon Lord Fu was spread throughout the martial arts world, and the accident of Tianyun's sect was also revealed. Several Dazhengdaimons set their joint efforts to settle the matter and finally eliminated it. Lin Feng's name has become a legend in the world. Everyone calls him Tiangang Sword, but he never made any move. He brought Xiaolan back to his hometown, rebuilt the village, and took a simple life of growing rice and growing chicken. Occasionally, some people from the martial arts world came to the door to ask for advice, but he would just smile and snatch a cup of rough tea, saying, "I have forgotten about martial arts," and so on. If you want to learn, just learn how to do it, and practice it. As the sun sets, Lin Feng and Xiaolan sit in their yard, watching the smoke far away playing with the children, showing a satisfying smile on their faces. The flames of revenge have been extinguished, and the rest are calm and warm. "Brother Feng, we are so good this day." Xiaolan leaned against his shoulder, his voice softly. Lin Feng held her and said lightly, "Yes, it's good. It's better than anything else."